Okay, so continuing on from our last tutorial where we learned how to jump, I am now going to go through how to make a basic enemy. We're going to make it similar to a Goomba from Mario, obviously with not the details and the pretty little art. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to start off here by selecting our player object here and turning the tag here to player. We want to make that very specific, and we're just going to duplicate this. So we have two players and put it over here and just change the tag back to untagged because that's very important. And then removing the player controller. Now this is going to be our enemy, so we're going to want to rename it to enemy. Change the color here to red, just so we know there's a difference. Okay, so I have a script started here. Give me 1 minute here. I'm just going to redelete this. We're just going to clear it up and create a public float for our enemy called move speed. Default it to 1. We're going to use this later. A public bool is dead. Also going to use that later. And lastly, a void on collision enter 2D. We're just going to run a few variables through here before we write our message, just so we know that everything works fine. So if collision.gameObject.tag equals player and dead. So that is just another syntax. That is just another syntax that we use. Instead of using false, you can just put an exclamation point. So the exclamation point would be equivalent to this, for example, but we don't need to do that. We can just say is not. There we go. And under here, we're going to write a debug.log. We're going to have it say you are dead. Save it, go back into our scene, and we're going to just test it out here. So all we should have working right now is if I touch the enemy, it should be dead. Yeah, I'm not dead. Chapter 2D, yada yada yada. And the reason for that is we don't have the script inside the enemy component here. Just drag it on there. And now it should work fine. Sorry about that. Amateur hour here. There, you are dead. Right here. So I touched him, I died. So everything seems to be working perfectly fine. Okay. So what happens with a Goomba is we're going to create an empty game object, by the way, right underneath the Goomba enemy object. Because what happens with a Goomba is if you touch it on the side, you die. But if you jump on its head, you're fine. So what we're going to need to do is create a box collider 2D. So it's really large. We don't want that. We're just going to shrink it. And I mean shrink it. Has to be smaller than the collider below it, but also high enough to be able to jump on. So we're going to make it about the size there. And just put the collider, make sure it's above the Goomba here. And make it a trigger event. Also, we're going to need to make a separate script for just that, just to kill it. So we're going to create a C# script called kill enemy. There we go. We'll just click and drag it onto the empty game object here. Let's hope it's on there. And we're just going to name this kill detector so we don't get confused. Okay, we're going to open up this new script here, and then we're also going to have a similar thing. We're just going to want a public reference to our enemy script. And then void on collision enter 2D if collision.gameObject.tag also equals player. And enemy dot is dead equals false. We're gonna make enemy dot is dead to true. And we're also gonna create a debug.log stating that you killed the enemy. There we go. So we got the basic functions that we have here so that we know. So right here in the kill detector, we're just going to drag the enemy to create the reference. We know whether we killed the enemy or got killed by the enemy, and that's usually how that game works. So we're just going to jump here. So if I touch him on the side, you are dead. Now if I jump on his head, like in Mario, oh, interesting. Oh, okay, my mistake. Yes. So we want to change this to an on trigger, void on trigger enter. And we're just going to copy this into here. And we'll write as rain. That should essentially be it for that. Like you obviously when you're actually making the 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 art and all that, you'll have like an animation for him to die. So there we go. You killed the enemy, and I can no longer be killed by the enemy as I touch him on the side because he is dead. It's always good to do that because nothing will irritate a player more than getting killed by a killed enemy, by an enemy that's already dead. So now that we have that, so you just put the animations here, and we'll just, you know what, we'll destroy enemy game object. We'll destroy the game object if the enemy is dead. And over here, we'll restart the level. So we'll be using Unity Engine, got scene management. And we're just going to reload the scene if we get killed, as if to say that you are dead. You can put a prompt there, but right now we're just going to focus on the enemy. So scene manager dot load scene, scene manager get active scene dot build index. And if it's not already automatically there, we're just going to need to hop into our scenes folder here under build settings. It's already in there. We're good. Okay, good. Now we want to do the movement. So earlier, let me just use the tag here. I made a tag just for testing purposes. We're just going to re-add it. We're just going to call it wall check. And the point of wall check is so that we can have our enemy moving from left to right without actually falling off the platform itself. So in our script here, we're going to create a bool called is moving right. Oh, the spelling errors is moving right. Then void on trigger enter. We're also going to want to fix update because it's running on a physics, like I mentioned in the first video, physics-based movement. Void fix update. So we're going to put if moving right, and it's just for simply equals true. We're gonna push the velocity of the rigid body of the enemy right, and then if it's not moving right, we're gonna push it left, and we're gonna show how that works here. So we're just gonna create a reference to the rigid body, RB, and I'm gonna show you a new way to grab a component without having to actually go back into Unity. So if the component is in the same game object as the script, you can just grab it through the script. So you can just get component rigid body, and that'll be that. If it's not in the script, it'll throw you an error, and therefore you'll know that something's wrong. So there we go with that RB. We're gonna move it RB dot velocity equals new vector 3. No, not new vector 3. My bad. Yeah, that's right. Rigid body 2D. Keep mixing. I keep mixing these up. I'm used to 3D work. New vector 2. Move speed, comma 0. And then we're going to do if move right is equal to false, move speed times -1. So it will reverse. And the only way we'll be able to tell the difference between two, because it's going to start off as moving right, we're going to default it to true. It could be false, either or, it doesn't really matter. On trigger enter, if other dot tag equals wall check that we made earlier. Then is moving right equals not is moving right. So equals what it isn't. So this is an automatic switcher, and I'm just make things a lot smoother for us. And this should be mostly it. I'm going to create two wall game objects left and right here, just so we can have them bounce off the both. So we're going to create a box collider 2D here. Make it sure it's triggered. And make it really thin there and put the tag under wall check. Just put it at the edges of the platform that the enemy sits on. So we're going to put one right there. We're going to put one right there. And then we're going to give it a little test, and I think that should be it. So when we have the enemy moving here, he's moving right, and he just falls off. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. I must have misspelled something here. Wall, capital check. Moving right equals what moving right isn't. Okay, so here's a little error fix here. It's probably getting caught inside the trap. So we're just going to create a coroutine here. And we're just going to call it wait. Down here, we're going to make an I enumerator. Wait. Yield, return. So this, you have to always wait a second. So an I enumerator is like a regular function, but you can tell it to wait a certain second after its amount of time before it's being called. It's very, very useful. We're going to wait a second before we, and then we're going to create another bool here. We're going to call it stopper. So up here, and stopper equals false. And when it gets triggered, stopper here equals true. So therefore it can't re-trigger when we enter it. And we're going to wait a whole second before we let it be able to re-trigger again. So let's give this a little test, make sure everything's working. Should be able to bounce back and forth now. Okay, 1 second here. So after thorough research for about a second, I realized I made a stupid mistake again, and I didn't have these set under 2D. So all you got to do is up here and make sure this is 2D. Always make sure it's 2D. There we go, and everything will work this time. So let's just give it a run through. So now he's bouncing back and forth like a Goomba would on the platform. If he touches me, I'm dead. And I restart the map. And if I jump on his head, he's dead. There you go, we have our basic enemy. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to be making part 2.